Welcome to the SVG-TV News and Sports for Friday, October 23rd. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. Over the last 2 days, St. Vincent and the Grenadines recorded 5 new COVID-19 cases. A release from the Health Services Committee of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, said these cases are persons entering the country from the USA and Canada. 4 of the new cases arrived from the USA with negative PCR results and tested positive between Wednesday and Thursday. The 5th case arrived on Thursday on Air Canada with a 6-day-old negative PCR result and tested positive. The Health Services Committee said all of the new cases are in isolation and their contacts are being informed and checked for possible exposure as deemed appropriate. It said they will all remain in isolation until cleared by 2 negative PCR test results. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has now recorded a total of 73 COVID-19 cases, 64 of which have recovered, with 9 active cases now, and all are imported from countries that are categorized as high risk. The Health Services Subcommittee of the National Emergency Committee Coronavirus Task Force is again stressing the need for continued strict compliance with all the protocols currently in place to keep SVG safe. And the Health Services Subcommittee has issued an advisory on the conduct of the November 5th general elections during the COVID-19 pandemic. The advisory, whose aim is to ensure that the elections are conducted safely so as to reduce the risk of transmission of COVID-19 in SVG, deals specifically with political meetings and rallies, as well as eligible voters in quarantine. With respect to meetings and rallies, the advisory recommends that these be held outdoors with sufficient space to avoid overcrowding, and that all persons attending wear facial coverings. On election day, the recommendation is that all polling station workers and officials wear masks at all times, sanitize their hands regularly, or change their gloves. Voters are also advised to wear face coverings while at polling stations and maintain at least a 3-foot distance while waiting in line to vote. Hand sanitizing is also recommended before and after the voter's mask is removed to verify identity and before dipping their finger in the ink, having cast the ballot. There are procedures for voters in quarantine for between 1 to 5 days and those in quarantine for 5 to 14 days. Both will be issued with a temporary waiver for a specified period to allow them to cast their vote under extremely strict guidelines. These include the wearing of face masks for the entire duration of the period they are allowed out of quarantine and the strict observance of instructions regarding spacing and sanitization. These persons will be required to travel to and from the polling stations in a vehicle that allows for adequate spacing between themselves and the masked driver. Polling station staff will be suitably outfitted with gowns, masks, and gloves to interact with persons in quarantine while at the polling stations. The release from NEMO's Health Services Subcommittee also states that the Supervisor of Elections and the Attorney General are in discussions regarding the specific time period that will be granted to persons in quarantine to enable them to vote. A meeting involving the political parties contesting the general elections will be held between October 26th and 30th to discuss and agree on the health protocols regarding the elections. That meeting will be chaired by the SVG Christian Council. The girls' high school is once again Lions Club South public speaking champions thanks to an outstanding performance by Marika Batiste. She won both the prepared topic and impromptu speech. Kenali Teixeira of the Georgetown Secondary School placed second and was adjudged the main topic winner. In third place was Ariana Jardine of the Mountain View Adventist Academy. The prepared topic was politicians across the world are using the COVID-19 pandemic to their advantage, while medical officials are at their wits' end trying to gain their voices. Here are snippets from their prepared speeches.
Adherence to COVID prevention protocols, but their infection rate spiked post-election. Research by Lindsay Mason depicts that Jamaica and Trinidad are not exclusive, as countries worldwide that have held their elections, as usual, have also recorded a post-elections increase in COVID cases.
Judges, when one considers the modus operandi of politicians and nuances of governance, it is evident that the international, regional, and local politicians are indeed using the COVID-19 pandemic to their advantage, while medical officials struggle to have their voices heard.
or at least will appear to the public to have a favorable outcome, which in turn would definitely benefit their cause. This fact is more applicable to political than any other kind of leaders. COVID-19 has created for all of us a very negative situation. I do not believe, Chairperson, that there is anyone listening to this presentation who would have any doubt that politicians right across the globe are definitely using the COVID-19 pandemic to gain political mileage.
The students also presented an individually prepared speech, and this year's winner's topic was challenges faced by the people over the Dry River. Batiste, who is a resident of Fancy, described the negative portrayal of the Garifuna people who live over the Dry River.
National average of poverty, which is 30.2%. The struggle continues when we are forced to be absent from school due to dire economic situation, which lessens our job opportunities when the food that we can afford isn't what is most healthy for us. Baundada Afalara, when we are labeled as being behind God's back, when we are left isolated from other parts of the island during natural disasters, when rough terrain claimed the lives of 7 young souls at Rock Gutter on their quest for education. Baundada Afalara, when electricity came to Fancy as late as the 16th July 1995. And I, Marika Batiste of Fancy, whose story is yet to be written. Baundada Alfalara, and yet we Garifuna people, we rise undaunted, unbowed, a resilient people with the blood of Châtelet coursing through our veins. We shall never be defeated.
The other competing schools were the St. Vincent Grammar School and the Union Island Secondary School. The annual public speaking competition of the Lions Club South is held in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, and both had high expectations of the students.
Whether you are selected in the top position tonight, consider yourself winners and see this opportunity as one that will propel you to even greater things. I look forward keenly to your presentations.
Public speaking competition is one of the club's flagship projects. It is designed to develop the communication skills of students and to raise awareness among young people on national issues.
The Theresa Jack Early Childhood Development Center at Richland Park was opened yesterday. The $1.2 million project was funded by the Caribbean Development Bank through the Basic Needs Trust Fund, the BNTF, and the government of SVG. Speaking at yesterday's opening ceremony, Minister with responsibility for the BNTF, Soboto Caesar, said the area representative, Sinclair Prince, had been pushing for the people of Mariaqua to get the best, especially in education. Caesar said the country should thank God because while other countries are closing down, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, new buildings are being opened.
He has a particular love for education. And I can recall when he came to the ministry to discuss the project, he said, don't send any hapsy scrapsy thing to Mariaqua, you know, because I'll leave it. You know, he has a way, even when he's serious, he'll smile and joke, but deep down in his heart, he's serious. And he spoke to the persons at the Basic Needs Trust Fund. And I am telling you, if you place this facility anywhere in the world, whether it is Birmingham, whether it is in New York City, whether it is in Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, in Germany, any place in the world, parents will be proud to send their children to this early childhood development center.
Former area representative Gerlin Miguel said the center was named after a woman who played a very important role in the lives of the children of Richland Park.
Lived a life of service and a blessing to the children of Richland Park and of St. Vincent and the Grenadines at large. She mothered her siblings after the passing of her father when she was only 16 years old. Her 7 children all felt the tenderness and the dedication of her undying love. She seemed to have had the innate ability to determine the specific needs of the children she encountered. She ministered to them with simply a listening ear, a few kind words, a little toy, something to eat, clothing, or just a warm embrace.
And incumbent MP for Mariaqua, Sinclair Prince, said the Theresa Jack Early Childhood Center will provide quality education free of charge to children.
Also empowering families by providing a safe place of learning and stimulation for the entire day while they go off to work. I might add here that the period 3 to 5 is perhaps the most critical in the development of children. So you can appreciate how important this Early Childhood Development Center will be for your children and your grandchildren. Our investment, therefore, in these early childhood centers must not be seen as a cost, but as an investment in the future of our nation's children. Investing in the education of children in their early years puts young minds on a promising path for lifelong learning and future successes. Indeed, the research shows that the investment in early education, particularly disadvantaged children, improves not only cognitive abilities, but also critical behavioral traits such as sociability, motivation, and self-esteem.
The special 15-day voter registration period ahead of the November 5th general elections closes tomorrow. The 15-day period, which commenced on October 10th, is intended to cater for late registrants, including first-time voters. The Supervisor of Elections, Dora James, told SVG-TV News that the process has been running smoothly and the Electoral Office has put out an appeal to new voters and re-registrants to turn up early at the centers tomorrow, where registration starts at 2 p.m. The completion of the 15-day special registration period will pave the way for the preparation and publication of the final voters list, which must be completed 21 days after nomination. Nomination of candidates for the November 5th general election was done last Tuesday. Men were given the opportunity to better understand prostate cancer with the hosting of a symposium by the SVG Teachers Cooperative Credit Union on Wednesday. The chairperson of the Teachers of the Credit Union's Education and Marketing Committee, Gwyneth Cambridge, said that men were generally reluctant to do medical checks, and the organization therefore thought it necessary to inform and make them more aware about prostate cancer.
In such a way that they're supposed not to show emotions. They are supposed to be stoic and bear their pain with manliness, because emotions are for women. And so from the time you hear about something relating to health for men, the men get frightened and they cannot be found.
Urologist Dr. Rohan Dishong was one of the main speakers who explained that men are afraid to have their prostates examined, but he pointed out that a blood test can also be done.
At 45, if your PSA is 3.5, 4, I'm going to examine you, because I do not examine everyone. So, okay, men, don't worry. Most men are like, Doc, I'm going to come see you, but I don't want that finger test. So that is why I monitor the PSA. If it's going up too fast, in other words, the velocity is too high, that's when it reaches around 3.5, 4 in men under 50, that's when I do the finger test. Fortunately, most men, 95% of men who come under 50 do not have elevated PSA. So you don't need to worry. Every man thinks that when you come to see me in my office to check your prostate, I say, oh, go on the bed, stick a finger in, okay, good, you're fine. No, it's nothing like that.
Dr. Dishong said that the man's prostate grows larger as they age, and the prostate-specific antigens may also increase, which is why they need to be monitored at least every 6 months after the age of 50.
Note also in black men we have lower thresholds, so where it's between 40 and 49, white men are allowed to go up to 2.5, black 2. The only reason why this is a little more common, a little higher in black men, is because at that time between 50 and 59, black men's prostates can be a little bigger, pick up more infections, etc. So the 4 just reflects the fact that there's a lot going on in that at that time. There is not just a swollen prostate, there is infection and a small amount of cancer, but we start at a lower value because
Dr. Dishong noted that most men will not get prostate cancer complications if they are diagnosed early, but sometimes they wait until it's a little too late and the complications then become greater.
Still do see men in this country who come to see me with both kidneys blocked because they have prostate cancer and it's now spread to block the urine tubes called the ureters, and that blocks the opening to the bladder so that they can pee. So as much as this doesn't happen a lot in North America, both Europe and Europe, it still does happen fairly commonly in men in this country.
Digicel's Chief Executive Officer, Fanta Williams, said the COVID-19 pandemic has shown that more persons are looking towards digital access. And on Tuesday, the telecommunications company launched new digital applications.
Before, we were voice and data centric. That's what we did, and that was the standard operating model for most smartphone providers, most telecommunications companies. What we are now is a digital operator. That means that we bring to you a suite of apps that will enhance your lifestyle choices. Our vision is to be part of your everyday life. There are 1,440 minutes in the day. We want to be part of that experience for every minute of the day with you. Whether you want to listen to music, whether you want to watch television, whether you want to watch sports, live sports, whether it is you want to listen to your local radio stations, whether it is you want to communicate via instant messaging, doing 10-way conference call, video conference calls, whether it is also connecting with local brands through our BIP app. All of these things are now at your fingertips when you are part of the Digicel family.
Williams said that Digicel offers Prime bundles, which will give the customers more data to access all the apps as part of the new data plans.
You were continuing to use voice and data in your plans. Now you will have enough data to access all of these apps in addition to that. This is a massive change in how we do business. Massive. The other thing that we're doing is localizing the brand. We feel that it's critically important at this juncture in our journey as a company to reintroduce ourselves to the customer. So you'll hear us say things like, hello, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Why? After 19 years, would we think it's important to really reacquaint ourselves? Because we think that part of this digital operating model is not about selling you, the customer, a product and a service. It's about building a partnership.